The Inner Sanctum presents the Wednesday Whip Around.
Going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Wednesday Whip Around. This week, I have two very special guests with me. A long-time listener, first-time caller. First of all, Ollie Walker-Peel. Ollie, welcome to the Whip Around, mate.
Thanks for having us, Anthony. Glad to be here. Hope you're both well, and let's get cracking.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a big episode, and she's been here now, I think, every week, to be honest. Maddie Irwin, welcome to the Whip Around.
Thank you for having me. I'm just trying to get in front of everyone else. If I set a record, might be hard to beat.
The most games ever on the Whip Around. It will be some triumph indeed. It's good to have you both. It's a massive edition of the Wednesday Whip Around. We'll kick it off with the World Cup of the women's cricket that happened on the weekend, and Australia got the job done quite in a sensational fashion, led by Elise Perry. Alyssa Healy as well. She did a fantastic job with 170 odd. And Matty, what an awesome triumph! 2 years after our win in Melbourne, Australians have done it again.
They definitely have. I was just watching this game and it was just unbelievable. Alyssa Healy just doing Alyssa Healy things, I swear. She just keeps getting better and better. And well supported by Haynes and Mooney in the batting as well. And yeah, it was just dominant. Obviously, Short and King and Jonathan in the wickets there, but it was pretty well over once we just absolutely batted out of our skin, really.
Alyssa Healy was the player of the tournament as well, 170 odd. I think she hit the most runs in the tournament as well, and a fantastic keeper. The elevation she's had over the last couple of years, especially with her form, has been second to none, hasn't it?
It definitely has. I'd like to be in the Healy Stark household and see if I can get in on some of that, because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, completely agree. Good to see Mitchie Stark attending the World Cup final as well, after what's been a pretty decent series for him over in Pakistan, and they've got one more T20 coming up, which would have happened at the time of this recording. So hopefully they get the job done. But it was great to see him supporting Alyssa after she supported him in the World Cup previously. Ollie, your take on the World Cup, mate? I'm guessing with your accent. I didn't know you had the accent, so being an English man, I'm sure you're not too happy.
Look, I don't know why I volunteered for this week, because I knew that I should have known this was going to come up. But speaking of cricket, Maddie, I'd just like to congratulate you on raising the bat in a half century for Inner Sanctum articles. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah, round of applause. But back to the cricket. Honestly, it was the one when I'd been to both of the Ashes ODIs. I went to both the games in the Junction Oval, and you could just see that Australia were a class above in those games. And I just sort of hoped that we could step it up a level and upset the apple cart, because we were the underdogs going into the final, let's be honest. We've got some quality players, that's not to be understated. You know, Nat Siver has been brilliant for years. Sophie Eccleston, the best ODI bowler in the world. But coming up against that lineup, you know, you can't really begrudge the way that we went about it, because we lost to a better side. That's not to discredit, you know, anything that England have done, because we had a remarkable run ourselves, starting with 3 losses in the tournament and, you know, making it to a final. That's some effort. But at the end of the day, like, you're going to be hard pressed to find any more dominant side in world cricket, you know, female or male. I reckon that is a special team. You look all the way up and down it. You've got the likes of Alana King, who's coming into the side, Darcy Brown. You know, I think Australian cricket, and the annoying thing for me being an England cricket fan, which I 100% am, is no matter what level, you know, if it's men's cricket, women's cricket, Australia just seem to find absolute gems constantly. And it's so frustrating, because you're just sort of thinking, oh yeah, Warner will retire, or Rachel Haynes will retire, or Alyssa Healy's not got long left, but they'll find someone. They'll find someone to come in, and it's just dominance for Australian cricket as a whole. And, you know, obviously congratulations to Australia for winning the World Cup, but it was a bitter one, and it definitely did hurt.
Yeah, not too much of a good showing from England cricket of late, but at least the girls did a great job throughout the World Cup tournament, and I'm sure you'd be pretty proud of it.
Absolutely. Like, I was, you know, obviously following the tournament at the start, and I saw us go, you know, 3 losses in a row, and I was like, we're the defending World Cup champions here. like we're one more loss and we're probably gone. But we managed to pluck it out the fire. Well, obviously, England as a team, we've got some immense players. Like I mentioned before, Sophie Eccleston. It's going to be hard. You're going to be hard pressed to find a better bowler than her. I mean, you can't in ODI cricket at the moment. She bowled brilliantly in the semi-final, and you just sort of thought, well, if she can get on a run, you might be able to find something. Obviously, Danny Wyatt's been around for ages. Tammy Beaumont's been around for ages. So you just sort of thought we'd have to start well. Obviously, winning the toss, Heather Knight sending Australia in. You just sort of thought, just don't get out of hand. And then Alyssa Healy does Alyssa Healy things, as Maddie says, and scores 170. And you're just thinking, why? Why? Can you just be average for a change? Even if she just makes like a solid, well put together 50, would be in with a chance. But no, she decides to be the brilliant Alyssa Healy that she is and make 170 and completely batters out the game. But I know, fair shout out to Nat Siver, who pretty much almost matched her. Probably would have gone well past the 170 that she made had someone gone with her. We could have been looking at records broken, but obviously not to be. Australia, I think, are probably the most dominant side cricket has ever seen since its inception back in, I don't know, in the 1880s it would have been, wouldn't it? I think it.
Yeah.
Female or male, I think this is the most dominant cricket side we've ever seen. And if I wasn't an England fan, I would say it's a joy to watch. But because I am an England fan, it's still good to watch. It's still good to watch as a neutral, but it just hurts that little bit more, especially when it's your team losing the final.
Actually, you raise a good point, and I actually had this question written down. I'll chuck it back to Maddie first. Firstly, Maddie, is this rivaling or better than the 2006-2007 Australian men's Ashes squad that went 5-0 in Australia at that time?
I just think going into the tournament, this was the one trophy that we hadn't had in our in the trophy cabinet at the moment. You've got to say, just the sheer dominance against every single team, every single form of the game, even the Ashes test, you can't go past this side. It's the most dominant ever, to be honest.
Yeah, and at least off the names, you've got Elise Perry, who is everyone's idol, the name, the brand of women's cricket, essentially. You see her everywhere. You throw in Alyssa Healy, Rachel Haynes, Beth Mooney. You've got these players that are just above and beyond anything you ever expect from women's cricket in general, but also as a cricketer. Like, they are so professional. But I did love as well how they all got around the cricket pitch at the end of the game. I saw a couple of TikToks, and they were having a couple of frothies and celebrating, which was great to see.
For sure. I reckon those SA girls best on ground by the look of it.
Yeah, well,
Afterwards.
SA dominate anyway. But to have them showcasing that is extra special. Ollie, mate, just quickly before we move on, you're taking the World Cup as a whole in Pakistan. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Or is Pakistan cricket, with the pitches and stuff, did that throw up a few surprises your way?
You say the World Cup in Pakistan or the Test series? You've got
the World Cup was in Pakistan, wasn't it?
Which one? The Women's World Cup?
Yeah.
No, I was in New Zealand, mate.
Was it?
Aroa. Have you not been following?
No, mate.
I
knew that.
That's
Squidworthy.
Absolutely. I'm putting that nod forward. That is pathetic from you. Yeah, it was a great World Cup, wasn't it? I think we saw right from the off with Hayley Matthews, literally tearing the New Zealand attack apart. It was brilliant to watch right from the off. We had so many great players breaking out. And in the end, the best side won. So, look, I think the great thing about women's cricket is it's just ever improving. It's constantly improving. And there's going to be so many, young cricketers that are going to come out of this tournament and start saying, I want to play cricket. There's going to be so many people with Healy 77 on the back of their shirts. And it's just so good to see. And it's just what you want to see from World Cups. You want to see, the sport growing as a whole. And, if that takes Australia winning to do that, then yeah, I want to see cricket be as big as it can be. And this is going to help it. So, yeah, brilliant World Cup and the best side won.
I knew it was in New Zealand. I'm thinking about the T20 that's happening tonight. All right, just let it be. It's not Squidworthy. I'm just Hadamare. All right, that's leaving it at that.
We'll move on.
And we're going to move on.
Move on to something more traumatic for you to discuss, I reckon.
Oh, this is even worse. It's even worse. Matty, the showdown. I don't want to talk about it, but this has come up in the notes. Talk us through your feeling of, firstly, the game, and then simply answer the question: was the showdown on Friday night a success?
By my standards, it definitely was. I mean, it would have been before the game, but yeah, it was. I mean, you can't put any better advertisement, jokes aside, for a showdown on a Friday night than that. You just can't. It was a little bit of, I would admit, it was a bit of an insult having it after a Victorian clash. Just, I don't know, it was the AFL not thinking that it could stand on its own or whatever. But fantastic game, obviously even better finish, and yeah, it was definitely worthy of the time slot. I just wish it was on its own, to be honest.
Yeah, it was an insult, and I thought the way that we advertised both games in a way was sort of a disgrace, and really showcased that VFL mentality. I feel, coming from a South Australian, there's always that VFL mentality, and to have Melbourne Essendon, which in the end wasn't a great game. It was it was a good contest, but it wasn't a great game to watch. And I don't think any other week you're having that on a Friday night for sure. But when you end up with the showdown showcasing what it was, and having that, I mean, as a neutral footy fan, great finish. As a Port fan, heartbreaking. As a Crows fan, drink till Monday type situation. It's it's I think pretty poor from the AFL to have that situation where you've got the greatest rivalry in the game. Showcase it. 7:50 on a Friday night, South Australian time. 7:50 for a footy game in general. And I had a few people say, "Oh, back in the day, it used to be 8:30." It's like, yeah, but the game's changed. 7:20, we get the chance to watch it, and 7:50 on a Friday night. It was still a decent crowd, which was good. But yeah, the AFL was not to standard, I don't think, on that fixture. Ollie, what was your thoughts on the showdown as a whole?
Well, first of all, I must say that I didn't actually watch the game because I was busy. I was busy with other commitments. So what I will say is, from a neutral, as in not Port Adelaide or Adelaide fan, and someone who's based in Victoria, if the showdown next year isn't a standalone game on a Friday night, I would be very, very, very surprised, because that is about as good as you can get. Yeah. I've been saying for years, right? I don't know why. I've never known why Port Adelaide and Adelaide isn't a game that's played on a Friday night. It's just the games are so good to watch. You think about a few years ago with the whole Josh Jenkins scenario. That's another sore one for you. I do apologise. Stevie Motlop. I'll bring it back to Port Adelaide for you. But you know what? But you see my point. Like, these games, they're always nail biters. Robbie Gray, I don't know if I was in the country at the time, but if you go all the way back there, like, these games, they're just nail biting 90% of the time. And the best game should be played at the best time slots. And the best time slot is Friday night, whether that be it'd be 7:20, wouldn't it? South Australian time. But it needs to be on its own. I think the one positive out of the fact that it wasn't on its own is the fact that it's shown why it should be. Yeah. And
great call.
I think that's the one thing where the AFL will probably now sit up and go, okay, we've had probably the best game of the year so far. It needs to be on its own next season. And I think that's the one thing that they might do. I can understand it. This is probably going to enrage the pair review and any South Australian, people listening to this. While I would not have made the decision to have Melbourne Essendon on the Friday night, I can obviously understand why it's been done.
Yeah. That
being said, next year it's got to be on its own.
Yeah. No, I look, looking at that point as a whole, you can understand why it's done. The AFL probably were like, all right, let's do it, but let's see how it stands against another blockbuster, which is Melbourne Essendon, another rivalry, and just test the waters and see. And I think they've got their answer now, which is a big positive going into next year. Because I remember a few years ago, the showdown was Sunday Arvo, Sunday Twilight, Saturday Twilight, and it was like, these great games are in these time slots that you just don't understand how they cannot be showcased. And I think now Port Adelaide's home game at the end of the year is going to be, it hasn't been set in stone, but it will be a Saturday night fixture. And yeah, I think what a perfect way to do it, even though it was a Crows win, to have a goal after the siren. But Matty, I think a better game's going to happen, and a better result might even come the Adelaide Crows way this weekend, because the AFLW has its grand final, Adelaide versus Melbourne.
Sure does. Yeah, it's a pretty big game. Any which way you look at it, obviously Melbourne, stars in every line, Crows are the same. Yeah, it's really hard to sort of split this one. You've obviously got, all the Adelaide names that we sort of know about in the midfield, Noffy, Hatchard, Phillips, Randall, all those kind of players. But then on Melbourne, it's just, Harris and Zanker, and it's just Pearce, like both Pearce girls. It's just, yeah, hopefully it'll be the same result as the showdown, but we'll see.
Is that AFLW Grand Final held in New Zealand or Pakistan, or is it actually in Adelaide? Because I don't know.
Sure is Adelaide, but I'm a little bit unsure about the time, because I've got it at 12 p.m, which I'm finding a little bit amusing. Get some sports played in the morning and might clash with other bits and pieces, sort of being right in the middle of the day. But yeah.
So I think AFLW, they should have the grand final. There should be a Saturday night fixture. I think, I'm happy to have 1 week of the AFL men's, have no Saturday night game, shove an extra one on a Sunday, have your 2 Friday night games that week, and then have the AFLW as a standalone. That'd be a great promotion for the AFLW, but also, it's a big grand final, and they deserve to have that great time slot of being in prime time, not 12 p.m. on a Saturday when, the juniors are playing, or the seniors on a Saturday. People are going to, get ready for the Saturday Arvo time slot for the AFL men's teams. And yeah, that's a bit of a shame that it's going to be 12 o'clock, but at least it's a grand final, and the Adelaide Oval, I'm sure, will be packed, and I'm sure you'll be there, Matty.
Definitely will. Got my ticket. I'll be a couple of rows back, but I'll be close enough to the action, that's for sure.
Ollie, your thoughts on the AFLW before we move on, mate? Any tip for this week?
I'm going to go with Adelaide at home, because they've obviously got a point to prove after last year. Obviously, I just want to touch on briefly how good it was seeing both Adelaide Oval and the MCG in use at prelim final weekend.
Yes.
Every single year, MCG at least. And I'm obviously saying that from a Victorian point of view, but to have the biggest games at the biggest stage of football in the country, that should just be a thing that happens. I hate Saturday night grand finals, but I can understand in this case why it probably should be implemented ahead of Saturday afternoon, due to the point where, obviously, like you say, there's games going on in community level that you can't really, that I don't think would be put on hold. Whereas Saturday night, those games would all be rounded up and you'd have a clear air. I agree with the fact that the AFLW Grand Final should have clear air. There shouldn't be any AFL men's games going on at the same time. It should have its own time slot, because it's having a clear air time slot is going to attract more fans to watch AFLW in the future anyway, which is all, it's all about bringing more fans to the sport and watching it for what it is, which is a good product. I do enjoy watching the AFLW, and I'm sure a lot of other fans do as well. But hopefully it's a showpiece event. Hopefully at some point in the near future it stands alone on its own in a primetime slot. But I'm just hoping it's a decent game, and I reckon Adelaide will get the chocolates.
Yeah, I love that. I'm looking forward to the AFLW. And I tell you what else is happening this weekend is Formula One's back in Australia, in Melbourne, Albert Park this weekend, and I'm very excited because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be flying over and spending the weekend watching Formula One come back to Victoria, and dream come true as well. By the way, I have never been to the Grand Prix, so that's going to be very exciting. Just quickly, Ollie, as a Victorian, the buzz at the moment with the Grand Prix, I'm sure everyone's talking about it or up and about.
Like obviously going into Melbourne, I live outside of Melbourne, but going into Melbourne every 3 times a week for uni, you can just see everything's being cordoned off. Everything's there's a lot of advertising. You've got all the Ferrari signs and the Mercedes signs going up. I won't be going. They were giving away free tickets to my uni the day that I wasn't there. So I'll be watching at home. I was never planning to go, but I think Hawthorn St Kilda are on at the same time, and I've decided to push that aside to watch it, which as a St Kilda fan, I didn't think I'd be saying that at the start of the year. But look, I'll be watching it. I'm trying to get into F1. A few of my mates are involved, so we're all going to watch it together on Sunday. But the buzz around Melbourne is massive. It's a huge event. It's nice to have it back. It feels right to have it back, obviously, because usually they start the season with it. And obviously we've not had it for a couple of years, and it's just not felt right. I've never really been into F1, but it's still not felt right not having it. But hopefully that sort of brings something back to normality, and hopefully it's a decent event, gets a lot of people in.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And it's going to be a great event, and I'm sure the Australians in general will put on a great show. But that ends this week's edition of the Wednesday Whip Around. Maddie, it's been fantastic to have you on for the 800th time, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you next week.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I get back on.
And Ollie, first time, mate, you have been an absolute star, and I'm sure we'll be getting you back on, and you'll be sliding into my DMs like everyone else because they want to be on the Whip Around.
How confident of you. How confident. Far out. But no, it was a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
No worries. The Whip Around might be in New Zealand or Pakistan next week. We're not too sure about that, so keep an eye out for that announcement. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel and look out for these guys. And then also content on the Sanctum, and follow the Sanctum on all social medias. My name's Anthony, and we'll see you next time.